All right, welcome back. August 11th, 2025. Looks like I am going to squeeze a Secure F video in. Now, I don't know if I can be brief enough to do it in one video. Likely not. Probably going to span across two. But I will say I finally found, or actually found, a YouTube video discussing Optimal F, not Secure F. It's a different, slightly different animal. Now, I wasn't going to talk about it, but because I saw the video, I think I am. And then I'll just transition to Secure F. So, first of all, we've got to define what we're doing here. So, the standard binary bets for the Kelly system uses the standard Kelly model. All right, so this is not for trading. So, I've mentioned that in previous videos. So, the standard Kelly criteria is not really meant for trading, but people can use it because you can calculate it. And we typically use average wins and average losses and that's the problem with the standard Kelly trading. The criterion for actual trading is it's not binary. You've got average, different size wins, different size losses. So you average them, right? So that gives you the Kelly fraction. That's what the F stands for, the fraction. All right, so that's a bit of a problem. So I've showed you how to use the Kelly criteria for trading. I've in past videos I've got the formula for that. That's a little better, and we're amalgamating the trades and we're averaging them out. That's what we're doing. Now you can see obviously the problems with that. We know going into it there's going to be errors, and our current data set of trades that we've calculated on is going to be different moving forward. We don't know how different, we just assume it's going to be close enough. And how we kind of get our arms around that is we just trade fractional Kelly. And if you ever run an equity curve on full Kelly or half Kelly, you would never do it anyways because the volatility of your equity would just be insane. So everyone's going to do that naturally. At least I hope you are. So what is optimal F? And I'm also going to say this also applies to Secure F, what I'm about to say. And what that does, both of them, optimal F and Secure F, is they look at the individual trades in sequence. And they don't average them. They look at the actual returns, right? And that's the same for optimal F and Secure F. Now, put Secure F on a shelf for a second. Let's talk about optimal F. Optimal F, I actually think is dog shit. It's dog shit. I think it might be worse than just calculating Kelly and averaging it and doing that upon each successive trade. That's how you're supposed to do it. Nobody does it that way. But you'd actually have to recalculate all of these F values as you add data to the trade set. So you're adding a trade, put it in there. It's going to change it. Now it's going to change optimal F and Secure F far more than just because the Kelly averages it. But what optimal F does is it goes through the current series of actual trades and it tries to optimize your bet size over X number of trades. So it does that, and then it spits out what you are supposed to do on your next trade based on the previous trades. It may or may not be right. It's still the same problem. But what it's going over is your actual trades, right? So it's a little more, I hate to say it this way because it's dog shit. It's a little more accurate. Okay, it's a little more accurate in terms of the data that you have. The problem with Optimal F, why I call it dog shit, and you're kind of looking at this on the screen. I'll get into this graph that you've been staring at in a second. But it's dog shit because it will oftentimes have you over betting more than Kelly. It just depends. It may be over, it may be under, it may be identical. It just depends on the series of trades and the volatility. And the math may work out that your optimal F is either greater than, less than, or the same as Kelly. It depends specifically on your data set. But generally speaking, optimal F is dog shit. And I'm going to show you in a series of trades and just put into simple graph form. And I will be able to show you with pictures because pictures are always worth 1,000 words. So let's not overly complicate the verbiage. Let's just look at the pictures. But before that, I want to go through a video very quickly, which is why my video might be done over two videos. I want to show you a conversation that two guys are having about a year ago, I guess, on YouTube. And I want to go over some of the misunderstandings. Again, it's rampant. It's people really aren't willing to put in the hard work and understand this stuff. And you can tell when you, or at least most times I can tell when I'm listening to them. All right, so let's listen to this and see where we are.
Hey, Walter, I thought we could talk a little bit about Optimal F. I know we discussed this on a previous version of the podcast, but maybe we could talk about it on this one. What is it? How does it help? What are the downsides, maybe?
So this comes from the approach of Optimal F is basically answering the question, what is the maximal amount to bet so that you get the maximum returns?
Okay, so that's bang on. So it looks at your specific trades. So it will put out an F value, an F score that would maximize your returns if the future looks exactly like the past. And it's not using the Kelly averages, it's using the specifics. That's the difference. But you can understand when it's being so specific, it's likely to be worse, which is why I call Optimal F dog shit, because it almost always is worse. Right, let's continue.
And that's the only question that's answering. And so in
Correct.
certain games, it's real easy to find that, like in what they call closed systems, like in blackjack or games of chance like that. There are issues though with the markets because we have things like gaps. You can get gapped over your stop loss, whether it's a physical stop loss in your platform, like literally in your platform, or a mental stop loss. So you have these issues where your risk is beyond what you initially thought it was.
Okay. This isn't exactly right. He's conflating some things here. Yes, you have issues beyond what you thought it was, but it's not specifically this stuff. And this stuff that he's claiming that are issues, which are issues, they affect Kelly F, Optimal F, Secure F. It's not specific to Kelly, and Optimal is going to eliminate it. That's the misunderstanding here. Optimal F is not going to limit any of this stuff anyways, because this is a problem across the board. So there are problems, and that's why you struggle with the proper position sizing, and you'll never get it because you can't tell the history. But Optimal F here, he's kind of indicating Optimal F is going to solve these problems. It doesn't. It does not at all. Let's continue.
And then beyond that, or broker risk, right? Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of risk. You have broker risk. What if the broker goes down, the exchange goes down? What if you get gapped because the market goes so fast you get slipped? There's all these things, right? So there's these other variables that are kind of like outside the system, so to speak, which is not necessarily the case if you're just playing roulette or something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, roulette has a negative expectancy, so you wouldn't play roulette. But yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, So if you're trying to answer the question, how do I maximize my returns? And the other problem with it is it doesn't take into account that you can run out of your bank.
Okay, so I'm not sure where he's going here. They all take into account you can run out of your bank. The problem is if you overbet, you're going to get into a position where you're going to get into some serious drawdown. Now, there is an issue where you won't be able to bet because I use futures. Okay, if you don't have the minimum margin to enter a trade, well, you can't bet even though you have some money. But I mean, guys, at that point, your friggin' drawdown is so far. Like, what were you doing between the time you started and you get to the point where you can't bet? You weren't following anything sensible anyway. So I'm not sure what he's about to talk about here exactly, but they all take into account how much you can bet and running out of your bankroll. It's always a fraction of your bankroll. So if you start with 100K, listen, and it tells you to do 50%. Well, every bet isn't $50,000. If you lost 50, it's 50% of the $50,000 that you have left. So they always scale to the account value you have. So again, I'm not sure where he's going.
Okay, it just assumes that you can keep upping, right? And that and then if you play for a long enough time, you're gonna win. You're gonna make it, right?
Yeah. Listen, I know what he's trying to say, but it's just none of this computes. It doesn't really compute. And realistically, unless you're betting large fractions, way over betting, none of this matters anyways. But that's the whole reason for not one Kelly, going a full Kelly, because one, the drawdowns are horrible, and two, the future's not going to look like, so you may end up over betting and not knowing it until, well, after the fact, after you do a series of trades, you're down 80%, and now the Kelly F that say used to be 50% of your bankroll is now 2, or worse yet, negative. But there again, it's always still a fraction. So this idea of upping it, I don't get. Let's just move on.
And if you have anything, so that's problem number one, is that we don't have an unlimited bankroll. I don't think you do. I don't think anyone listening to this has an unlimited bankroll, right? So unless you're actually creating fiat currency or printing, if you're the maker of a token or something, like, you don't have that, right? So what you have to do is assume that you have a limited, like, you gotta break that down. You gotta pull that down. So that's problem number one, is that if you bet the maximum amount, you may run out of your money. Like, so let's say I start with $10,000 and my thing tells me to risk 25%. Okay, so if I get 6 losers in a row, my 25%, like, and I'm betting 25% every time, that's a small fraction of what I started with, right? So that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I don't know. Is he implying you're betting on that 10,000 bankroll, $2,500 6 times? Well, okay, then you do the math, and you can't bet the last 2, but it's not how it works. And again, it's irrelevant anyways, because you're betting sub Kellys.
And it takes a while to get out of that. It is.
Well, hey, listen, it takes a while to get out of that. Let's just discuss that. Listen, that's going to be the case. If you lose, it's going to take a while to get out of it. And I'm going to show you here. He's claiming all sorts of these great things on Optimal F. No, dog shit. It's actually worse, folks.
Possible, but the other part of it is, what if your stats are just off a little bit? So what if you think, that your maximal bet is 25% based on all of your data, but your data is wrong? And so what's happened is so there's like this curve, right, where if you're betting the peak of the curve, you're going to maximally return your amount. But if you start betting on the other side of the curve down here, you're guaranteed to blow up.
Okay, now here again, this is a misunderstanding on his part. I mean, what he said, the last part there is correct. But he says it's your data is going to have error. Again, that's the whole reason why you do partial Kellys. And Optimal F, I'm going to tell you again, doesn't fix that problem. Hey, Secure F, which I haven't even talked about, which is our main point here, which we're going on to a second video, that doesn't fix it either. It just makes it better. None of this stuff is any different from one fraction calculation to another. If you're recalculating upon every trade, you are going to get updated F values. And if you start losing, okay, the F value on the Kelly, Optimal, and Secure is going to be smaller, so you're going to bet less anyways. But you're never going to know beforehand if you've overbet until you've done it, because you don't know if your data set is going to start increasing the wins and increasing the Kelly size. Very often, all the time that happens. So again, it's a moving target you're never going to get a hold of. Optimal F does nothing for you in that regard.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the issue, is that you got to stay to the left. I call it the left. You got to stay closer to the axis than to the far side of that chart, because if you go beyond the peak there, you're guaranteed to blow up at some stage. Those are the 2 big reasons I have for why it's tricky, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's Safe F, and there's all kinds of iterations.
Okay, so I don't know if I've ever heard it termed Safe F, but that's actually what made me, because I was searching for Secure F, and I found Optimal F, and this video, and I went, oh, okay, let's just look at it. And then I heard him say Secure F. Listen, Safe F. Look, Safe F, Secure F. I think the more common term is Secure F, but Safe F. It's the same deal. He doesn't talk about it here. That's what we're going to do.
That are based on that. But yes, you're basically trying to do that by trading Optimal F, is maximize your returns. And you don't care about drawdowns. So like Larry Williams, the classic story, Larry Williams is basically trading a version of Optimal F, and he had worked his $10,000 over the course of this year, the trading contest, to 1.1 million. But he was actually, no one talks about that he was in a $900,000 drawdown. So he hit 2 million, and then that month, or that last 6 weeks of the contest to December, the end of December, he actually was in a massive drawdown.
Okay. Yeah, so we've all probably heard this story or some version of it. I'm assuming what he said here is pretty accurate. Now, I do know that Larry did use some version of Optimal F, and does it surprise me that he's balls to the wall and not caring about the drawdown and had drawn down 50%? No, it doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't surprise me at all,